Alright, so in the previous video we have seen how to create these reusable components by using Formic, and how to do the authentications by using YAP. So I think it is almost okay, but in password input stuff, let's say if user wanted to see whether what he has entered is correct or not, there must be a sort of a toggle button to make this as text, right? Otherwise, if it shows like this, whatever the input is, it is not visible, right? So now I need to declare sort of a functionality over here. So what I can do is basically I can create a separate input to handle that functionality as well, because some can say, okay, why we can't use this input component with that toggle functionality. Yes, we can do that, but I think it will be uh, somewhat complex to in this level, because then it will become more modularized, right? But in some cases, if it has two different functionalities, instead of centralizing it to one component, what we can do is we can make two different components, because this password input stuff either way will be a separate functionality, and taking other inputs will be a separate functionality, right? So these are some of the good or best practices in software engineering that you need to understand, right? Otherwise, if you're going to do things just because of you can, it is not the way you have to do, right? You have to understand these concepts as well, like uh, what is the place or why you are going to make a specific change for your uh, software components, right? So now I'm going to make a separate input component for the password input. So all I have to do is make a copy, and let's rename it as password input, right? And let's make this input as password input, and this also as a password input. Then let's go back to the login page, and I need to input that password input, and instead of this input I will use password input, right? So it is quite okay. Then inside this password input we need to have that toggle button and other necessary stuff, right? Okay, so now let's say I'm going to use that toggle button over here. So let's say show. So if I click show, then it must display the necessary password, right? But let's make this as inside over here. So what I can do is basically grab the entire content like this and put inside another div, right? My document, and I will make this as w full, and I will make this as absolute. Okay, it doesn't give any changes, so say top 0. I think we need to make this component as absolute. Okay, it works, but yeah. Okay, I will do the changes later on, but for now, let's make it as like this. Then I will make, let's say, font same. No, uh, text same, font semi-bold, and p of 1 maybe. Let's make it as text access. Let's say show password, right? Then yeah, so let's say whenever I click this show password, it must show me the password, right? Therefore I need a variable to store that specific value, whether I'm going to show the password or I'm not going to show the password, right? So in such cases we can use state. So I will use import use state, and I need to declare a use state like, let's say, password visibility, and I need a handler function to handle the changes over this use state. So set, I will make it as set password visibility. So by default the use state will be false, right? Because by default the password will be uh, not visible to the outside. Then yeah, so now I need to change this value when I click this specific component. So let's say on click I need to change the password. I need to change the visibility of the password as true, right? So instead of making it as true and false, what I can do is invert this value. So inverting specifies like this, right? So this is not password visibility, then it will become true. Then if I click again, it will go not true, which means it will again become false, right? Then let's say if password visibility is true, then this input field must be a text, right? So therefore instead of passing the field type as usual way, what I can do is use this value over here, and if it is visible then I will make it as text, and if it is not visible I will make it as password, right? So now if I click this show password option, okay, so let's say, okay, it's not working. Yeah, don't know why it is not working, but let's see why is that. So on click is there, and yeah, I think it's because of we have been passed our default value as password, right? So let's make this as a blank. Okay, right now you can see if I click show password, it will show the password, and if I click it again, it will hide the password, right? But you can see this text is now rigid, so we need to change this text dynamically as well. So what I can do is basically go over input and do similar sort of a change over here. So let's say if the password is uh, visible, then uh, let's say hide password, and if the password is not visible, let's say show password, right? Then if I go to the Chrome back again, you can see that change is happening dynamically as well. And now let's add some sort of stylings to here. So let's make it as poor, and let's say by default this has text gray 400, but if I hover on it, it will become text gray 600. Okay, until like this. Then I can change the cursor as well to the cursor pointer, and I will do a smooth transition over it. Okay, now you can click this hide password or show password options, then it will then the necessary changes will be applied. Okay, so I think we are quite done. And let's make some changes to our form, because I think these two components are too much closer. So let's add a maybe gap of 2, gap of 3. Okay, if we are going to add a gap, we need to specify it as a flex. So flex call gap 2. Okay, now it's quite okay. So everything is perfectly working, error handling working, and data gathering also working. Yeah, and let's finish this entire form as well. So basically what we require is, if I go to the Apple sign in page, so it has this remember me stuff and forget password stuff and uh, sign up forms as well. So let's quickly add those stuff over here. So basically let's go to the login form, and yeah, first let's say if the logging passes, uh, we need to be able to log into the authorized page as well, right? So therefore I will create a button component, let's say login, right? So that button is there, and I will make this as, let's say, bg so what is the color we used over here? Maybe inside the navbar we can see, okay, bg gray 800, right? And I will make it as text gray 100, and with the padding of 3, with the rounded borders, and it must have hover effect as well. So let's say PG gray 600. Okay, then let's say 100, and transition all, and is now. Okay, now the login button is done. and we need forgot password, then sign up link as well. So what I can do is basically I can create that link over here outside of the form component because it is not associated with the form authentication stuff. If I will go outside that, I will create separate div and a p, let's say forgot password. Right, then yeah, I can simply make this as a separate link component as well. Yeah, so let's make it as a component maybe. So inside the form, let's make it as link.js. So rfc, and I will call that object over here, and instead of this one I will use link. Okay, so I think we have some sort of aliasing issues if we use just plain link, but you can do that way. But for now I will make this as maybe let's say form link, right? Form link and form link, form link, form link, and form link. And as usual, how to do this link stuff, but it says form link is not defined because over here. Okay, now inside this form link we have to pass the name and the path. The name goes here and the path goes with the link of React DOM, and 2 is the path, right? And the form link will be called here with the name of forgot password and the path of any sort of a forgot password page you need to redirect the to. Okay, now it is a link. See, now it works, but let's add some stylings as well. So form link, let's say bg blue 600, not bg, it must be text bg 600, and font bold and text sm, and when I move on it, maybe it must be underlined. Okay, likewise we need this sort of create new account page link as well. So let's say inside the login page, let's say don't have an account. If you don't have an account, you can simply create account, right? And this by default is text sm. Yeah, that's it. So let's make it as flex and flex row, the gap of 2. It's not row, it must be equal. And let's make it as text center, and let's say my as 4 or maybe 6. Okay, now it's kind of okay, right? So we have this forgot password option, we have this create password stuff, and we have these authentications, and we have these password togglings and the login button as well, right? So once I click this login button, what it has to be done is basically submit these uh, details to the backend and do the backend validations and get the response back. And if the authentication passes, it basically stores some sort of a JWT token inside your browser, and it will do the necessary authenticated redirection. Otherwise, it will show an error. So all of those stuff are backend stuff. So in this series, we are not going to consider those stuff. So for us, now it is kind of okay, and I will just simply redirect it back to the authorized page when I click login, right? Yeah. So by use those navigation stuff, we can use navigate hook provided by React Router DOM. So let's see how to use that as well. So let's call use navigate. Okay, use navigate, and I can create use navigate over here as let's say navigate equal to use navigate, and whenever I click that button, it must do the submit and do the necessary redirection, right? So for now I will just create a specific function, so therefore you can later on, if you want, you can define your backend functionalities as well, or backend callings as well by using Axios and stuff. But I will in later tutorial series I will cover those stuff, but for now we just need the front end functionalities. So submit, and if this login submit is passed, it simply navigate to a specific page. So in my case, I will just redirect it back into the home page, right? So this login submit will be called with this submit handle, right? So on submit, you need to use an arrow function, and login submit will be called, right? Whose negative has been already been declared. Okay, why was that? Okay, remove that. Now I think everything was quite okay. But let's make this button type as submit. Then our formic component knows this is the button that is needs to be triggered in order to call this on submit function, right? So now if I click login, you can see it simply redirect me back to the login page. But this is not a link. That is what you need to understand. This is not a link. So what will happen is when I click this login button, right? When I click this login button, it will go to this on submit handler, then it will call this function, then it will goes over here. So here you need to define the necessary backend callings for the authentication, right? Then if it is passes, it will be redirected to this specific route, right? So that is the way how it happens. But for now in this front end framework, we will just redirect it back into the home page, right? Okay, so I think that is how we are going to make a login page. So in the similar fashion, you can create a separate form for the sign up and for the forget password stuff as well. And that's the way how we use Formic and Yup to create more modularized and more reusable form components. Right. I think from that video we can uh, conclude this series. So basically what we have done was we have created these separate pages for the redirection stuff, and we have created this home page. So each and every component is modularized, and we have created this carousel as well, and we have created this body component and a footer links and the footer section. Then we have created this login form, and with this login form we have used Formic and Yup, and we have used Yup for define our validation schema, and each of these form components are reusable, which means you don't need to define this stuff again and again. All you have to do is just import the component and plug it to your form and pass the necessary details. Right? Okay, so that way I can conclude this tutorial series. So yeah, thank you, and I will see you in the new series. Okay, goodbye.